Today is a brand new day, and the standard we're working on for today is public speaking school. Children, it is a beautiful, beautiful occasion as always to have our public speaking school. This is the public speaking school that was delayed in December, but we are having it today, this nice January 24th. And we have some great student speakers that will be giving assignments for today. Our public speaking school is going to be focused on westward expansion. And for our first student speaker, he will be giving the public talk, A New Kind of President, our dear friend, Mr. Alvin Goudet. For our second, go ahead. Our second assignment, our Digging for Historical Gems part, will be taken care of by our dear, dear friend, Miss Emery Kennett. And last but certainly not least, our historical reading taken from page 370 will be given to us by Mr. William Petrick. Can we get a shot of the nice parents who came to see their babies today? Let's clap for the parents. They created all this. They made this possible. So we're not going to have any more delays. We're going to go ahead and get started. Let's invite up our first student speaker. He will be giving the public talk, A New Kind of President. Let's invite up Mr. Alvin Goudet.
Please turn to page 368 and 369. Is everyone there?
Yes.
A new kind of president. The first 6 people elected President of the United States came from Virginia and Massachusetts. They were all from wealthy families. Andrew Jackson, however, was different. Jackson grew up on the California frontier. He was poor but tough and determined. As a young man, Jackson took the wilderness trail to Tennessee. In Tennessee, he was a successful lawyer. A politician and business owner. When he became president in 1829, he was the first president to come from a state west of the original 13 colonies. After the War of 1812, many people moved to the territories south and west of the original states. When these territories became states, citizens in the new states were guaranteed the right to vote. This right to vote is called suffrage. My answer on that is Andrew Jackson was one of the most. Andrew Jackson ran from March 15, 1767 to June 8, 1855 as the 7th President of the United States. He and also the first president from the frontier. He was 61 at time of inauguration and was nicknamed Old Hickory. A fact is that Andrew Jackson was a legal guardian for more than 8 children. My answer for question 2 is he was a lawyer in the Western District of North Carolina, an appointed justice of the Tennessee Supreme Court, a business owner, a military governor of Florida, a part of the U.S. House of Representatives, and was a Major General of the United States Army. My answer for question 3 is that suffrage, or simply franchise, is when people are allowed the right to vote in a public political elections, and they it by seeing the War of 1812 as evidence of the success of the democratic experiment. The war gathered in a period of American history and has frequently been called the time of good feelings, a time when at least most Americans were behind a common purpose. My answer for question 4 was since new voters came to vote, that helped Andrew Jackson's campaign to get more votes. He also won the military fame, which had much to do with the election. My answer for question 5 is the Indian Removal Act, also known as the Trail of Tears, made many American Indians move over to the west of Mississippi. Now I'm going to read paragraph 2, Jackson's election. Many of these new voters had little money or education. Before this time, only white men who owned land or had a certain amount of money could vote. The United States in the 1800s was the only country in the world that did not give suffrage to white men who did not own land. Women and most African Americans, however, still could not vote. In 1828, new voters helped elect Andrew Jackson as president. They liked his campaign message of support for ordinary citizens. A campaign is a series of actions taken toward a goal, such as winning a presidential election. Jackson won a huge victory, especially in the new states. People on the frontier were excited to have someone with a background like theirs in the White House. Now I'm going to read paragraph 2, the Indian Removal Act. Settlers moved farther west every year. They often fought with the American Indians. Jackson thought that American Indians slowed the nation's growth by living on land the settlers wanted. Congress agreed in 1830. Jackson signed the Indian Removal Act. This law ordered all Indian nations east of the Mississippi River to move east of that river. Families had to leave their homes behind. In the southeast, the United States Army in Chickasaw Creek and the Chickasaw people to move to present-day Oklahoma. Congress called this the Area Indian Territory.
Boy, oh boy, you can relax now. That was very well done, Alvin. What I liked about your talk, let's position you to where you can kind of see it. What I really liked about your talk, because I took some notes, the first thing I love, boy, look at your suit, man. My goodness gracious. Mama had you ready for today, didn't she? You came up. As soon as I saw the suit, I knew, okay, this is going to be really serious. This is going to be a very well prepared, serious talk, because a lot of times, and you all will find this out when you're adults, and the adults in the room can tell you, the first impression people get when you are going into a job interview, or when you are performing on your job, or when you are giving a speech in front of a lot of people, the first thing they see is how you are dressed. If you are dressed professionally, that's going to make it easier for people to listen to you. If you come up and you're not dressed a certain type of way, then you may lose your audience. So as soon as I saw the way you came in today, you had my attention, and you had the attention of your classmates. Something else that I really enjoyed about your talk was the little facts that you brought up, how you found out that Andrew Jackson was named Old Hickory. That's not something that I saw listed in the book, so that showed me that you did research. Going along with that, your further answers that you gave, I started to see a trend. I started to see, oh man, I don't know if he got maybe just anything but the first sentence out of the book, because then when you really got in depth with your answers, I saw that you had gone home and you had done research. Maybe your mom helped you out with some of the questions, and you brought a lot of extra stuff to the table that we don't normally learn in social studies. And that's a point that I always love to hit on when we do have public speaking school, is it's your opportunity to be the teacher. So when you bring something that is not listed in our old textbook, but it's something extra, that gets your audience not only more involved, but it teaches them more about the subject. So you did a great job in that. I would like to speak for myself and the audience when I would like to say that we really, really enjoyed that talk, and you did a lot of good hard work on it. And from rehearsal yesterday to the improvements that you made today, I'm very proud of you, man. And I'm very excited to see if maybe you could squeak in one more talk before the school year is over. So let's give Alvin another round of applause. But now, I went for almost all of December and almost all of January, and I was doing good. And then all of a sudden, this back pain, it's back just about right here. It just came back. I'm hurting, especially this week. You know why I've been hurting? Because I've been digging. But have you been digging? Are your backs hurting? Well, we're gonna see, because this is the part that everyone loves, because it's the audience's chance to shine, to hear some really good comments, and the conductor is so excited. Let's not waste any more time. Let's invite up our dear friend, Miss Emery Kennett, as she takes care of our second part, Digging for Historical Gems.
Hello, as you have heard, I'm Emery Kennett, and I will be giving you the Digging for Historical Gems part. So get out your shovels, let's get digging. To start off, may you all turn to page 368, paragraph 3. Everyone there? Mm-hmm. Now may I get a reader for paragraph 3? Mara? After the War of 1812, many people moved to the territory south and west of the original states. When these territories became states, citizens in the new states were guaranteed the right to vote. This right to vote is called suffrage. Thank you. And now may I get another reader for page 369, paragraph 3 to the end of paragraph 4. Jake?
Indian moved left, right?
Yes.
Settlers moved farther west every year. They often fought with American Indians. Jackson thought the American Indians slowed down the nation's growth by living on land. The settlers wanted Congress agreed. In 1830, Jackson signed the Indian Remove Act. This law ordered all Indian nations east of Mississippi River to move to west of the river. Families had to leave their own home. In the southeast, the United States Army forced Chickasaw Creek and Chickasaw people to move to present-day Oklahoma. Congress called this our Indian Territory.
Thank you. And now that we are all done with the reading, we will now be answering the questions. Starting with question 1, which is, what new group of voters helped elect Andrew Jackson? Emma?
New citizens of the United States that were poor and had little education.
Wonderful. And Sam?
New group of voters were people who had little money and education, and we call them the average man.
Great answer. And Zane?
Very poor people who didn't have no education helped elect Andrew Jackson.
Great answers. For question 1, I put, the new group of voters that helped elect Andrew Jackson were people who had little money, who had to move to the territory south and west of the 13 colonies. These people had little money and education.
Moving on to question 2. Why were the Native Americans forced off their homelands? Graham?
Native Americans had to give up their land and move west because Andrew Jackson signed the Indian Removal. He ignored it was against the law. Congress said it was unconstitutional, but he did it anyway.
Great. And Nahum?
Native Americans were off their homelands because Andrew Jackson thought that they were slowing down the nation's growth by living on the land settlers wanted.
Great. Actually had almost the exact same answer. I put for question 2, the Native Americans were forced off their homelands because Andrew Jackson thought that the American Indians slowed down the nation's growth by living on land the settlers wanted. Moving on to question 3, what does this week's reading teach me about history? Keely?
Sitting Bull thought God will help him win the battle because he had a vision.
Great. Jake?
It teaches me about Sitting Bull and her vision about the battle.
Great answer. And Emma?
It teaches me about the Battle of Little Bighorn.
Great answer. Would one more like to answer? Sam?
This week's reading teaches me about the Indian Removal Act, the westward expansion, and the new Cougar voters. Also, it teaches me about the Battle of Little Bighorn and Custer's last stand.
Great answer. For question 3, I put, this week's reading teaches me about history with Sitting Bull and the Battle of Little Bighorn. Sitting Bull was a Hunkpapa Lakota leader who led his people during years of resistance to the United States government policies. The Battle of Little Bighorn occurred in 1876 and is commonly referred as Custer's Last Stand. The battle took place when the government signed the Indian Removal Act and forced the Indians off their homelands. They fought for this land. This fight was called the Battle of Little Bighorn. The Indians won the battle by killing Custer and his men. However, the Indians were not victorious. Because they killed Custer, the U.S. government changed the borders so that land would be available for white men to settle. Question 4. What points can I use from this week's reading to teach someone about this topic? Keely?
Sitting Bull did defeat Custer because he had faith he could.
Oh, anyone else? Ashley?
Teaches me you could use the points of Battle of Bighorn and Chief Sitting Bull.
Great answer. Lastly, Zane.
This week's reading teaches me about the Battle of Little Bighorn and the Indian Removal Act.
One more? Nahum.
I can tell people that this week's reading about the Little Bighorn Battle, the new battles that helped elect Andrew Jackson and why they
Great answer. Thank you all. For question 4, I put, some points that I can use from this week's reading to teach someone about this topic is how the whole battle of Little Bighorn killed and injured many Americans and Indians. This was all because of the Indian Removal Act. Custer's Last Stand was an important part of American history because rather than retreat, Custer and his men stood their ground but were eventually defeated. Now, you may put your shovels away because the digging is over. Thank you.
Boy, oh boy. Now that is a part that I am happy, truly happy, was recorded and is documented, because that is an example of a part that I will be showing to students who will be on the public speaking school for as long as I'm here at Briar Lake and doing the public speaking school, because that, I don't know if you can get more perfect than how you conducted that part. And I have seen some really good digging parts before, and that's right up there at the top. Some notes that I took. I love the excitement and enthusiasm that you came up here with as soon as you started the part. It made everybody feel at ease, everybody was warm, and then they knew that they were in a safe environment to be able to answer these questions. I understand people can get nervous answering in front of all their classmates, even though we do know each other. For some reason, when it's public speaking school time, it gets a little more serious. But the way you started out put everyone at ease. I also love the fact that you went through the extra effort to print out what you were using, your materials, because to me, that shows how prepared and organized you were. You did not have any parts on here where you were fumbling for words or you didn't know where you were at. It was very specific, it was very to the point, it was very organized and concise. And as a teacher, that is what you want as a teacher. You don't want to have anything kind of go off script, and even if something goes off script, you're prepared for it. And you knew, yes, we do love our Chromebooks and our iPads, but you can have a disaster. So you made sure to put it on a hard copy. Another thing I love, how you would see the time and you knew that you could take more than just 3 comments. I especially noticed that after questions 3 and 4, where you decided to take, instead of 3 comments, you took 4. And that was really good because that shows that as a teacher, sometimes you can plan a lesson and that lesson can go so well and so good that it ends too quickly. And if you don't have an effective way to keep that lesson going, then you could lose your audience. You could lose the people who you're trying to teach. But you did very well by keeping the people interested and, hey, maybe I can have 1 or 2 more comments. Last but certainly not least, I really like how you took time to look at your audience and try and call in as many different people as you could. As a teacher, it does not help if you call on the same person over and over again because you're not in charge of teaching one person, you're in charge of teaching an entire class. So I especially noticed it when you waited for Ashlyn because Sam and Nahum had answered a couple of questions, but you waited until you saw someone different raise their hand. So I really like that. And then to my audience, man, oh man, you guys, once again, y'all have come well prepared. I loved all the answers that I heard, especially from Keely, who was not here for a lot of time during this week, but she came prepared. So I was very pleased with that. So let's please give a big hand to Miss Emery Kennett. I want you to put the camera on Papa. That's a happy man right there. Put it right, zoom in right on his face right there.
Good job.
But last and certainly not least, we have to have our historical reading, and we chose a great man to end our public speaking school for this evening. Let's invite up our dear friend, Mr. William Petrick. He will be doing their historical reading taken from page 370.
The Trail of Tears. In Georgia, the Cherokee had added parts of the settlers' culture to their own traditions. Many became farmers. They built roads, schools, and churches. Sequoyah invented a writing system for the Cherokee language. The Cherokee published books and a newspaper using this alphabet. John Ross, the Cherokee chief, led the fight against Indian removal. He went to the Supreme Court, the highest court in the country. The Supreme Court Justice Chief John Marshall made a ruling. A ruling is an official decision. He said that it was against the law to force Cherokee to move. President Jackson ignored Marshall's ruling. In 1838, the United States Army forced Cherokee to make a 1,000-mile trip to Indian Territory. The Cherokee had little to eat, the winter was cold, and disease spread quickly. About 1/4 of the Cherokee died along the way. This heartbreaking journey came to be known as the Trail of Tears. The Seminole, in the 1700s, some Creek peoples moved to Florida. They wanted better land for farming and hunting. They also wanted to avoid conflicts with other American Indian groups. These Creek peoples became known as the Seminole Indians. The Seminole built their villages along rivers and streams. They hunted birds,
Each family was made up about, each village was made up about 30 families. They grew corn, melons, and beans. The Seminole peoples hunted birds and caught fish from the rivers. They made clothing from fur and woven grasses. The Seminole traded goods with Spanish colonists from Florida. Some African Americans who had escaped slavery joined the Seminole Indians and adapted to their way of life.
Boy, oh boy. Golly, what a way to end it. Will, as soon as you started, the one thing I immediately noticed was how accurate your reading was. I mean, I don't know how many times you practiced it, but I can tell that you practiced and practiced and practiced and then practiced a little bit more. Because you were just, I mean, you got up here, it seemed like you had it memorized. And let me tell you why it seemed like you had it memorized. Because I noticed that during a lot of parts in your reading, you were looking right at somebody right here in the back. Now, I don't know who that is, but she looks a lot like you. Is that Mama? Put the camera on Mama. You see her? She was looking, zoom in. She was looking right at Will. Will was looking right at her. And he kept reading. And I'm sitting there trying to take notes and look up, and I can't do that. But you're reading, looking at your mom, you look down and continue reading like nothing happened, like you were staring this close at the page. That is something that a lot of adults cannot do. To be able to read, make a point to look at your audience, be engaged with your audience, keep reading, and still know where you're at. The amount of practice that you had to do to be able to achieve that by just taking the little bit that we talked about in rehearsal yesterday. When I talked to you about it yesterday in rehearsal, because you were already doing it, rehearsing, I didn't know that it was going to be like this today. I didn't know that you were going to be that good at looking at your audience while reading. So that to me is exactly what I want to see out of the historical reading. And last but not least, the level of comfort that you had when you got up here to read. Just like Alvin, just like Emery, you are dressed like $1,000,000. You got the vest, the tie, the shirt. Y'all look like, I think Ms. Watkins made a comment earlier this year. You look like you guys just came out of a board meeting, you know, talking about the importance of Briar Lake and how we're gonna get things done. And, you know, you got the look of importance. You read in a loud voice with importance. You were engaged with your audience. You did exactly what I wanted from this part and even more of what I wanted from the part. All three of the students went above and beyond in their assignments, and I got to give a lot of credit to you three because we didn't have as much time to prepare for this public speaking school as we normally could. Yes, we had that time in December, but we had snow last week. So this week it was Monday, Tuesday, and then it's here Wednesday. So I've got to give you guys, and I know the audience wanted to give you guys a big round of applause for pulling this off today. And since these nice children have made this public speaking school such a success, and you, the audience, have made this public speaking school such a success, you guys have made it a very special time.